Caitlin Clark just shook the entire WNBA. After weeks of silence, endless speculation, and mounting pressure, the confirmation fans have been waiting for is finally here. She's coming back. But why now? What changed behind the scenes? And can her return actually save the Indiana Fever's season? Let's break it down. Caitlin Clark's comeback is officially happening, and make no mistake, this changes everything. For weeks, fans were left guessing as injury reports stayed vague, practices were closed off, and the Fever organization stayed quiet. But then came the confirmation, and suddenly the entire WNBA landscape shifted overnight. The league's brightest star is stepping back on the court, and it's already creating a ripple effect that teams, sponsors, and even broadcasters can't ignore. This isn't just about one player returning from injury. This is about momentum, playoff positioning, and redefining what's possible for the Indiana Fever. Before Clark went down, Indiana's offense revolved entirely around her shot creation and playmaking. Without her, the Fever struggled to establish rhythm and looked like a team scrambling for identity. But now, with Clark preparing to return, the entire energy around the franchise feels different. Here's the big question everyone's asking. Is she ready to come back at full strength? That's what makes this moment so intense. Fans are buzzing with excitement, rivals are worried, and the league is watching closely because they know a healthy Caitlin Clark changes everything from matchups to ticket sales to playoff dynamics. But this return doesn't come without risk, and that's where things get interesting. Caitlin Clark's journey to this moment hasn't been easy. What was supposed to be her breakout season turned into a frustrating battle with her own body. First, there was the lingering groin issue that sidelined her when the Fever needed her most. That setback sparked debates about whether she was being protected properly on the court, especially with the amount of contact she's taken all year. Just when it looked like she was close to returning, disaster struck again, a bone bruise in her left ankle during solo training in early August. Suddenly, her timeline went from uncertain to completely unpredictable. Fans, analysts, and even players across the league started asking the same question. Would she even play again this season? Rehab wasn't just physical, it was mental. The pressure on Clark isn't like anything we've seen in years. She's carrying the expectations of the Fever, the fan base, and arguably the WNBA itself. Every day away from the court added to the anticipation, but it also added to the scrutiny. Was Indiana rushing her? Was she taking enough time to heal? And yet, despite the setbacks, here we are. Clark's resilience has pushed her back into position for a return, and by all accounts, she's been looking sharp in practice. The question now isn't whether she's coming back, it's whether she can perform at the level that made her the most talked about player in basketball. While Caitlin Clark was sidelined, the Indiana Fever were fighting for survival. Guard depth completely collapsed. Aari McDonald, Sydney Colson, and Sophie Cunningham all went down with injuries, leaving the team scrambling to fill minutes. Without Clark's scoring and playmaking, Indiana struggled to generate consistent offense and looked overmatched against elite teams. But here's what's remarkable. The Fever didn't quit. Players like Kelsey Mitchell and Nalissa Smith stepped up to keep the season alive, grinding out wins that no one expected. They've been scrapping for every possession, playing with heart, but it hasn't been enough to elevate them into serious playoff contention. That's why Clark's return means more than just getting a star player back on the floor. It's about restoring balance to a roster that's been stretched thin. Indiana has been fighting uphill without her. But now, with their centerpiece returning, there's a chance to reset their offensive identity. Here's the reality. The Fever's postseason hopes are hanging by a thread. They don't control their own destiny, not yet. But with Clark back in the lineup, that could change fast. Every possession matters from here on out, and every win could decide whether this team sneaks into the playoffs or watches from home. So, can Clark's return be enough to spark a late-season turnaround? That's the gamble Indiana is taking, and it sets up one of the most fascinating stretches of basketball we've seen all year. If you want proof that the Fever are preparing for Caitlin Clark's return, just look at the roster moves. Indiana recently released Kira Lambert after signing her to a 7-day contract, designed to patch up the guard rotation. She barely played just 4 seconds in one game before being waived. That move raised eyebrows across the league, but it makes sense when you look deeper. The Fever didn't bring Lambert in expecting her to be a long-term solution. Her signing was about buying time, keeping rotations functional until Clark was ready. But cutting Lambert this early tells you one thing. Indiana believes Clark's return is close. Odyssey Sims, on the other hand,